On today's episode of the Harrison Vapnek podcast, we're bringing on from the Wrightway Sports Network, founder and CEO Malik Wright, alongside talent and draft analyst Jake Sirkus to talk about TWSN's beginnings, how it was founded, the creation of it, alongside how it's really been built up in the last couple weeks. It's gotten fairly big this past NFL offseason. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some Cincinnati Bengals stuff. They're both very involved in the Bengals organization and media. Talk about what they're going to do with that number 5 overall pick. Talk about what they've done this past offseason and a whole lot more. A really great interview with Malik and Jake. So sit back, relax, and tune in to the Harrison Vapnek podcast, starting right now. Now joined by, from the Wrightway Sports Network, founder and CEO Malik Wright and draft analyst and talent Jake Sirkus. How are you guys doing today?
Oh man, it's good to be here, Harrison. We've talked about doing this for a while, and the man, I don't know if he's under or next to me, we'll see, but it's good to have Malik in too, talk about TWSN and the Bengals.
For sure, Harrison. I appreciate you for having me on, my man.
Of course, guys. So for those who aren't familiar with the TWSN, the Wrightway Sports Network, each of you kind of explain what you guys are all about.
I guess I'll take it. So pretty much we're a young company. You know, we started off in 2018. But I want to say the biggest thing that we're about giving a lot of young people an opportunity to prove themselves. You know, the first thing you hear when you first get in this business is people frown upon you because you're young. They're like, okay, you're young. What experience do you have and stuff like that? And, you know, one of the things that grinded my gears when I first got in, it was like, how do you expect me to have an experience if you're not willing to give me an opportunity? So kind of when I started the Wrightway Sports Network, I wanted to give younger people a voice and opportunity to really sort of build their brand up and sort of just build on their resume and, be a part of something that's special that I really think is like a family environment.
Yeah, he's right. And as someone who's been at other companies in the past, like this is a place that is family. It's a place where you can tone your skills, interact with people, both virtually, in person, and build relationships with people your age who are trying to do the same thing you are without stepping on each other's toes. I think at TWSN we've all built a bond, and I'm relatively new. I joined 6-7 months ago. I mean, Malik and I were talking a while about potentially doing this and teaming up, and the timing worked out, and I joined, and it was a great decision. I got to represent TWSN at the Senior Bowl, not in person, but that'll be next year. And Malik's given me opportunities and potentially more future opportunities, and it's been great.
Harrison,
go on.
Sorry to cut you off. Jake is one of my favorite people.
Jake's one of my favorite people too.
He's one of my favorite people. So when I had the opportunity to add the guy, I was ecstatic because I've always been a fan of his work. And so, like I said, when I had the opportunity to bring him on to my team, he's awesome at everything you're doing. He's doing an awesome draft series you guys should check out too. 32
teams in 32 days, as you mentioned. He's interviewing everyone, reporters from all around the National Football League. Back to TWSN for a second. You mentioned you started in 2018. Taking back to when you first started, was this always an idea or dream you had, or what kind of prompted you to take action and start building from there, Malik?
So that's a very good question, Harrison. It wasn't something that I've always saw myself doing, to be quite honest with you. I started out with a smaller company up in East Coast, Fairfield, New Jersey, called Back Sports Page. They really gave me my first break. I got to rub shoulders with a lot of athletes, a lot of different people in the industry. And then I realized that they wanted to be much more localized. They wanted to focus on local sports such as the New York Giants and Jets, Mets, things of that nature. And I always saw myself thinking big. So I had a pretty prominent, I want to say, podcast called the Wrightway podcast. That's how it started. And then one day we just broke off from that company. We started the Wrightway Sports Network. It was just me and my co-host at the time, who turned into my COO, Austin Mayo. And we started it. And, the rest is history. We used our contacts that we had while we were with Back Sports Page. We built on them. We used it. We leveraged them. And then we got credentialed. We got denied a couple of times when we first applied for credentialing with the NFL. But, after we added more talent to the team and we started putting in more work, we kept applying and we finally got approved. And then we got approved from that league to the UFC to so much, so on and so forth. So, the rest is history and we're still growing. So
when you were getting those media credentials denied from the NFL and from the UFC at first, what kind of promoted you or prompted you to kind of keep working hard? Because some people would get that and get discouraged and give up. Why didn't you give up and why did you keep going?
I always have this motto that I've always told myself for quite some time. I want to say since I was like back in high school. I always am in competition with nobody but myself. I always say that. And every single day I try to work to become the best version of myself. And I don't know, I get motivated. I get excited when people tell me no. When somebody tells me I can't do something, that really, really excites me. And then I become sort of obsessed with the idea of proving them wrong. And that's essentially what happened. You know what I mean? Like we were told, no, you get more viewers up and stuff like that. And then, we'll see what happens. And then, I really took that personal. And then I took it upon myself to start interviewing people, bringing people onto our team. Chris Wilson, who's our chief editor here at TWSN. He was the first person that I brought on to TWSN. And then I started bringing on all different people. You learn throughout the process. You figure out there are people that fit your company culture, what you're looking for. You realize there are also people who don't fit what you're looking for, but that's all right though. You know what I mean? As long as you don't basically close the door on yourself and you start to believe, that you can't do it or you're too small, that you can't do this or can't do that. So, for me, it was just about continue to stay motivated, basically just let all the negativity, all the no's, all the slamming of doors, propel me to this. So
the difficult parts of creating your own company like you did, you're basically starting from scratch. It's basically you building up from the bottom up. Have you had times of, difficulty and times that, you've wanted to give up, or have you just always been, even through the rough patches, just keep going the right way? No pun intended. No pun intended.
I like that though. No, there was never a point where I wanted to give up, but there were certainly points where it was challenging because I didn't have the right team around me very earlier on. And it's very hard to look at that and be like, okay, when you first started, it's sort of like a blow up, right? You started and you're like, okay, I want to just grab everybody that I can, and then try to produce as much content as I can. Then you start to realize, okay, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You want to make sure that you have people that are legit about this, that are actually going to take it serious, the people that are actually willing to put the time in, the work in, and also people that want to be that want to be a sponge and want to get better and absorb knowledge and want to be taught the right way of how to do things. And the hardest part for me was overturning that team slowly but surely, and then getting the right people in. Because once we started getting the correct people a part of TWSN, we started to see it take off. We started to see the quality of our content go. We started to see the viewers go. We started to see so many doors opening for us. And I attribute that to the amazing staff that we have here at TWSN. So,
This is a question for Jake. So you have worked with different media companies in your young broadcasting career. You've done different radio programs. You've done your own podcast. You've written for different websites. I know you touched on this in your first answer, but you have the family atmosphere of TWSN. It's real. And tell me how you have become a better broadcaster, a better writer, a better content producer through TWSN.
Yeah, and I owe a lot of it to Malik, and he's let me be me. And other places that I've been, I started out as a writer, didn't really want to write, and one of the things that we talked about when we were talking about joining forces and me joining was like Malik's like, I'm gonna let you do whatever you want to do, and not in a way of I'm just gonna go berserk and go rogue, but no, he told me that whatever you want to do, I can make it happen. And that was very appealing. So I'm more of a camera guy, like be in front of the camera and talking as opposed to writing. And he was so for that. I'm on the main TWSN show every single Tuesday night. And that's awesome with Daniel, Will, and Max. And there's so many talented people at TWSN, so many talented writers. We have a live show on our YouTube channel every single night throughout the week. I think 2 on Saturday now, Malik, if that's correct. There's multiple throughout the weekend. We just launched a UFC show. There's so much talent, and the atmosphere, in our group chats, it's just lively and it's so much fun.
Malik, what is some of your message to your talent? You have so many young, awesome guys. Jake, you have Will, Daniel, Max, so many more guys. How have you been able to kind of recruit your talent in and then kind of groom them? Because these are college kids, high school kids. What is your message and how are you able to groom them?
So I think the biggest thing is, telling people that, you know, being real with them. We're still growing, we're still learning, we don't know everything, right? And I think sometimes people go into this thing and they have it backwards. They think that the people work for them. And I think that is such a bad mentality to have. My mentality is I work for the people. Every single day I wake up at 5 a.m. and my thought process isn't to go to work for myself, it's to work for my team around me. And everything that I do, I have them in mind. I got Jake a part of the UFC credentialing process and things of that nature. And I told him, I said, Jake, I'm going to do that for you because I knew that there's something that you're passionate about. And I think the biggest thing, what I tell people is, when you join a company and things of that nature, they say, hey, I know your strong suit isn't writing, but you're going to write because that's what we need you to do. Well, I don't believe in fitting, what's to say, a round peg in a square hole. I don't believe in doing that. I think you want to put people in the right position to succeed. If someone's not, I'm a firm believer, if someone's not passionate about something, then they won't give you their all. They won't give you their effort. If someone has a passion about baseball, but you have them writing about NHL, it won't show forth, and it's gonna show forth from their work that they're not passionate about it because it'll be more errors. It'll be just sort of just put together. So I think the biggest thing with us here at TWSN, I do give my guys freedom to be who they want to be, and go down the path that they want to go down.
This is a question from both of you can answer from two different perspectives. You guys have really been popping off in the last couple of weeks. Most notably, ever since I guess the NFL offseason, I've noticed you guys keep going up and up. How far do you want TSN to take? How far do you think TWSN can go? And kind of what's your ultimate goal? This, and both of you can give your insight on this.
So I'll tell you this: I've never shared this with anybody. I've never shared this with.
Breaking news right here.
Breaking news. I want the Wrightway Sports Network to have a TV deal one day. That's a major goal of mine. I don't think that I didn't get into this business to be anything other than the best. That whether that's me or whether that's my team, everybody that I have around me, that's the ultimate goal. I know I got big plans for us next year. Lord willing, I hope to have our building in place in Ohio, in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's the plan. That's where the headquarters will be in Cincinnati for TWSN. But I see this going far, man. We got our mobile app already, and that's about to go through another update phase. I want to continue to expand. I want to continue to add to this team. My personal goal for TWSN by the end of the year is to have over 100 people. So we're continuously working. We're continuing adding the right people around to our team. So I'm excited. That's what my personal goal is to take this thing to the moon.
Yeah, and he said it best when he says 100 people, and we've talked about this as a team. It's not just, oh, you can just interview 20 people and just add them, right? But no, we all fit his mold, and he said that countless times. Malik is not just going to add someone just to add someone, just to add to the total, just to have a body. He goes through a real process, and he's denied people multiple amount of times. It happens all the time. And he's told me countless times that this guy just isn't a fit. And he has his vision as to what he wants in someone who's going to work for his team and work on his staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know TWSN has become a huge part of you. What kind of message would you have for someone who's thinking about starting their own company, but have a fear of, starting so small and so slow and kind of going through the grind? What kind of message would you give to them, Malik?
Don't be afraid to fail. That's the biggest message I can give. Do not be afraid to fail. You're going to fail. Embrace it. You're going to fail. But you can't look at your failure as that. You can't look at it as a failure. You have to look at it as a lesson. You have to look at it as, you have to use that to motivate you. Take it personally. But use that for all the right reasons. Tell yourself, I'm going to improve in this area. Whatever people say, hey, you can't do, well, start working on that. And then next thing you know, you'll look up and you'll realize you can do it. Because guess what? There's going to be countless doors that get closed in your face on this road. It's going to get countless people that tell you you're too small or you're not good enough or your team around you isn't good enough. That's all right. embrace it, learn from it, be willing to accept it, and then put the plan into motion, to prove them wrong. That's my goal. But do not be afraid to fail, because once you're not afraid to fail, once you accept failure, you know, it'll propel you to, more wins and more success. So
That's outstanding advice, especially for anyone who, because it's a big challenge to create your own company and build from scratch. Let's segue to the second half of this interview. The second part, I know something both of you are very passionate about, the Cincinnati Bengals. I have a question. I'm very curious to think about this. Neither of you are originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. Jake from Los Angeles. Malik, you're from New Jersey. How did you become a Bengals fan? Because it's not like it's the Cowboys or I guess the Patriots for my generation or the Packers or one of these big organizations. The Bengals are as basically as small as it gets in the NFL. How did you guys become Bengals fans?
I like Tigers growing up, and I grew up 20 minutes from the Giants and Jets stadium. Everybody around me was a Giants or Jets fan, and it used to really piss me off that everybody was, every single time the Giants won the Super Bowl, they would have a parade in New York. That used to grind my gears. It really, really annoyed me. And when they used to do that, I used to just really just I used to get really, really salty about it. But I used to always play Madden also with my brother. Played Madden with my brother, and I loved the Bengals. They had the Tiger logo. And then one day I turned on NFL Network, and then all I heard was, how do you stop 85? How do you stop 85? How do you stop 85? And lo and behold, it was Chad Ochocinco. I thought he was very charismatic. I thought he was very, very interesting. I love TJ Houshmandzadeh growing up as well. And the rest is history. I chose the Cincinnati Bengals as my team by default because I like Tigers and because I hated the Giants and Jets. And here we are.
I could agree with you on disliking the Giants and Jets. Jake, what about you?
So both of you guys know this. I think both of you know this story, but I was actually born into it. My dad been to Cincinnati once or twice in his entire life. I think he's been to a couple of games, but he was born and raised in the LA area, in California, and I think he was about 12 or 13 one morning. It had to have been, 84, 85. He turned on the morning. The Bengals were playing the Steelers. He liked their helmets, and the first play he saw was a Ken Anderson touchdown to Chris Collinsworth for 75 yards against Pittsburgh, and he fell in love with it ever since. That's how he raised me. So I kind of was born into it, and no regrets.
No regrets at all. So the big news about the Bengals is, not news, the update. They have the number 5 pick in this year's draft. A lot of speculation. I know both of you are pretty close with the organization. You have some sources in there.
That's all him.
You have some too. The likely top 3, it's going to look like it's going to go Lawrence, then Zach Wilson 2, number 3, possibly Mac Jones to the 49ers. We're not sure what's going to happen at 4. It's here like with the Bengals. It could be Jamar Chase, a wide receiver from LSU, or Penei Sewell, offensive tackle from Oregon. Malik, I'll start with you. Who are you hearing they're going to take at number 5?
Who it should be Penei Sewell. Who it's going to be Jamar Chase. And it's going to be Jamar Chase because the fact of the matter is, from everything that I've heard, the more maximum benefit is going to be in the second round when it comes to the offensive tackle position. The offensive line position just makes sense, right? I mean, you look at it. It's not that it's no knock against a guy like Penei Sewell. It's just everything is just shaping up for the Bengals to take Jamar Chase. And, you figure, you look at it, they need to replace those AJ Green targets. Something that Jake says a lot on Twitter as well. They got to replace the AJ Green targets. And, you want to leave, you want to be able to leave a guy like Tyler Boyd in the slot. You better have T. Higgins out there as your outside receiver. And if you look at everything that the Bengals have done the last 2 offseasons, they've been very, very much involved with with some of the top tier receivers, right? They were trying to trade for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. They were trying to bring in a guy like Kenny Golladay this offseason. Well, now they got a guy like Jamar Chase staring at them right in the face. If it was any other draft, Penei Sewell would be the pick at 5, but we're not in any other season. We're not in any other year. So Jamar Chase will be a Cincinnati Bengal reunited with Joe Burrow. And in the second round, we'll get the best offensive tackle available.
It's unfortunately. And I think if you asked me in November, I would have told you that, or not November, but January, I would have told you Jamar Chase was probably the pick. I would have told you that was crazy. And that I tweeted in January that if they took Chase over Sewell, that's a decision that should get someone fired. Don't necessarily feel that way anymore. I do think he can be a 1,300-yard receiver with Cincinnati, especially with Joe Burrow. But my take is this is a position the Bengals have tried to fix since 2017 when Andrew Whitworth and Kevin Zeitler walked out the door within 48 hours of each other. And the left side of this offensive line, or the entire offensive line, has not been the same. we've as a fan base have dealt through draft picks of Cedric Abui, Jake Fisher, Billy Price. They finally got one right with Jonah Williams. We hope in 2019 he was good last year in his first year starting. But everyone says that everyone agrees offensive tackle is a need, right? The Bengals need someone who's going to play right tackle, probably guard year one, and then move to right tackle because they did sign Riley Reef, who's a huge upgrade over what they had last year at right tackle, and Bobby Hart. But everyone agrees it's a need. Most people want them to go in the second and third round because that's the sweet spot for the depth of the class. Well, why not get the best one? And my thought process is this. You draft for the best player available at the position of need that's hardest to fill. And if you look at what Trent Williams just got on the open market, he got north of $21 million for the San Francisco 49ers. That's an in-house contract that he got, an extension. He tested free agency, Chiefs ran on him, and he got $22 million, I think, over 4 or 5 years. The Bengals aren't getting that. Like, if you want someone like that, you need to draft him. You can get receivers in the second or third round. The Bengals have done it multiple years. They traded down for Tyler Boyd. They got T. Higgins at 33. Obviously, they took AJ Green number 4 overall 10 years ago. But this is a position that they in the past have been able to fill in the later rounds. Offensive linemen, not so much. They got Whitworth late a while ago, but this is a position of need that's hardest to fill.
If they do take Sewell in the first round, do you think they would go wide receiver in the second?
No, I don't, because I think looking at it, unless a guy like Terrace Marshall falls or Bateman, which I don't think they will, most of the second round guys are slot guys. Maybe trade up and get De'Ami Brown, who is probably a reach at 38. I've said for months he's the go down the line of take any receiver not named Jalen Waddle. De'Ami Brown is the best scheme fit for what the Bengals are trying to do. Now that's not saying Jamar Chase is not going to do anything. I don't think he's a scheme fit. He's not a scheme fit, and Malik has argued that in the past. Jamar Chase is not a scheme fit for what they do. But going down the line, I would think third or fourth round is when they can get a speedster like Marquez Stevenson, like Anthony Schwartz, who can play on the outside, who has track speed. Second round will probably be defense. They didn't take defense until round 3 last year, and then they went defense 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And then so that I would think they would lean that, take an edge, someone on the D line, because that's a huge need right now. Edge or interior defensive line. They got Ogunjobi on a 1-year deal, but that's probably where I think they go. If they take Chase, we're most likely looking tackle at 38 in the second round.
Malik, what do you think?
Or guard.
I think that from everything that I know, I think the Bengals are going to draft Jamar Chase in the first round overall pick. They will then draft the offensive tackle, whoever you insert, or whoever the top tier offensive tackle is there. The third round will be a defensive line player, and I think the fourth round they can double back and get another offensive line player. And they will draft a kicker as well.
I really hope that kicker is a Jose Borregales. I would consider myself one of the 10 biggest Jose Borregales fans out there. I know you posted your mock draft a few days ago. Evan McPherson, come on. No, Jose is better.
Jose is better. I didn't know enough about Jose, and then I quickly familiarized myself.
The Bengals don't have a kicker right now other than Austin Seibert, who missed 3 kicks in 4 games he played last year. So
hey, sign Jake. Sign Jake. I'm all on board for the Bengals to sign Jake.
Ooh, you want to?
I don't think I've seen Jake kick field goals before, but you never know. Back to the Bengals for a second. What are your thoughts on their offseason so far? Malik, I know you've had some ties in the organization. You've heard things. They got rid of Carl Lawson. They brought in Trey Hendrickson. They got in a few other pieces. What are your overall thoughts on what the Bengals organization did this past spring?
I thought it was a solid offseason. I thought that I still think that there was areas they could have improved on. I would have liked to see them add a guard in free agency. I know that they had conversations with a guy like Trey Turner. Those really didn't go too far, and those were much earlier on in the process. I don't know. They did okay. They did all right. I think that there was more room for improvement. I'd like to see them attack the offensive line a little bit more personally. But hey, it is what it is. We're on to the draft.
Jake, what are your thoughts?
It was such a Bengals offseason. They were in on all these guys. They got outbid, and then they were vultures on day 2 and 3, right? This is what the Bengals do every year, especially last year when they missed on their top targets, Joe Sherbert, Graham Glasgow, Jack Conklin on day 1, and then they signed three Trey Waynes and DJ Reader on day 2 for huge contracts. It wasn't like that this year with the huge contracts. They only signed one huge contract. I think it was the wrong move. Carl Lawson, I'm a big Carl Lawson guy, not a big Trey Hendrickson guy. I hope I'm wrong. I don't like the way they structured that contract with the big year 1 cap hit. They did better with Awuzie, the corner from Dallas, and then Mike Hilton, the corner from Pittsburgh. They have low year 1 cap hits for those guys. Not Hendrickson. Maybe Hendrickson wanted more guaranteed money. I don't know. But it was a very Bengals offseason. There are still, anytime you don't get the offensive line, it's a bad offseason, according to most people. But I think they did what they wanted. They got some more depth guys. They brought in Larry Ogunjobi, Ricardo Allen. For the second year, they stress defense. And I think for a team that's been bottom third of the league in defense since 2015, or every year since 2016, after that 2015 year, it's important. You have to fix the defense.
What are your record predictions next year for the Bengals? Joe Burrow coming off the ACL surgery, expected to play at the beginning of the season. How good do you think the Bengals will be in 2021?
Jake, you can go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Jake was telling me 15-2 in Super Bowl earlier. I'm just saying that.
I like the schedule. I really like the schedule. I like some of the away games. I think there are more winnable away games than last year, especially seeing the way Joe Burrow threw the football in his last 4 games before he got injured. He had the take away the Baltimore game, but he became the first rookie quarterback ever to throw for 300 yards in 3 consecutive games. That's not even counting dicing up the best defense in the NFC for 2 quarters. Threw for over 220 yards in one half against Washington before he was carted off the field after the first drive in the second half. But he was great that game. He was great the month before. I'm not saying they're going to be above 500 because they did lose a couple. They lost 2 of their 3 best players, 2 of their 3 best players on defense, and have parted ways with multiple generational team legends. They parted ways with 3 of them, Malik. But obviously they weren't.
Who are the 3? Who are the 3? AJ Green.
AJ Green, Geno Atkins, and Giovanni Bernard. Giovanni Bernard, not a legend, but record right now, I would go 7-10.
Malik, what about you?
And be competitive.
I could see that. I don't know what to put them at this season, to be quite honest with you.
We never do. We never do.
We got a lot of time.
It's right. Maybe like 8 and 9, right? That sounds about right. 8 and 9, something like that. I could see them doing that. It's gonna be tough, right? You're gonna have your ups and downs. I certainly think that the defense will be much more improved. I think that this offense is gonna take a huge leap under with Joe Burrow back. Hopefully that knee is 100% healthy and we don't have to deal with that. Here's my bold prediction though. I think Joe Mixon is gonna have a breakout season.
Yep, he was the leading rusher in the AFC 2 seasons ago, 2018.
2018.
And we have the offensive line coach Frank Pollock back. One
of the best in the league.
The best in the league for sure. So I'm excited for that. I think that we're going to see. It also wouldn't shock me if the Bengals made the playoffs this season. That wouldn't shock me either. But it is going to be a tough season because of their schedule.
It's definitely pretty open. We'll see the Bengals playing a couple of times next season. Jake and I'll get you out on this. I know you're both some busy guys. Malik, this is a question for you.
Sure.
I know he's only been working for you for a couple months, but tell me your best Jake Sirkus story.
Best Jake Sirkus story.
Yes. The best, funniest story you have about Jake Sirkus. I'm sure you have one.
Oh, there's one answer, Malik. If he blanks, I'll pitch in because I have one.
I knew you'd have something.
It's got to be the UFC one of the UFC takes that I think the Izzy one for me. Izzy, he swore up and down Israel Adesanya was going to beat Jan Blachowicz, and I love proving Jake wrong. I love when Jake is wrong.
Oh yeah, no, so do I.
Jake was wrong, of course, and maybe I'm trying to think. Maybe it was when Jake thought he could beat me in a debate. Maybe that was
that jury is still out. That jury is still out.
Yeah, there was no. I'll tell you what. When Jake came in, his first few weeks here at TWSN, and we had the TWSN debates tournament.
I'm
He
the
was able
crown.
to.
I'm the
He
king.
is the prince. He
Okay.
is the debate prince here at TWSN, and he was just able to just run roughshod through everyone. I thought that was really, really awesome.
Jake, what was the story you were thinking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so during free agency, I think me and Malik talked for a combined like 8 hours over the course of 4 or 5 days. Is that number correct? Would you say, Malik?
I would
It,
say
it
so.
was a long time, and so free agency started Monday. Bengals didn't do anything; they were in on Trey Hendrickson the afternoon and then signed that night. But I think Tuesday, Wednesday, when the Galladay news started coming. Well, actually, so before we were on the phone, I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday that before the Galladay news that they made an offer to him was out. And I have this Nerf football, Harrison. You've thrown it around plenty of times on Stankowski Field.
I think I bought it.
I have this Nerf football, and I was trying to inch out, like to squeak out some info that Malik had, so he can tell me what the Bengals were doing, because he was teasing stuff throughout the week, and he tweeted something about the third round being like the sweet spot for finding prospects, and I was like, well, Kenny Galladay was drafted in the third round, so maybe he's talking about him. So I would set my phone against my TV and then stand right here, and then I would ask Malik, what do you think about this? So, and then I would take my football, drop back, and just make like a fake announcer call about Burrow throwing the ball deep to Kenny Galladay. And Malik didn't say anything. And then I was like, what about throwing deep to caught by Samuel, and for Curtis Samuel, of course, who did not sign with the Bengals. No. And then I would be like, throw his deep, caught by Jamar Chase. And then, so that was funny. I enjoyed that.
Malik, was it funny?
It was funny. He was trying to fish information. So Jake Sirkus was actually the first person to know that the Bengals were in on Kenny Galladay.
Yeah.
There you go.
He never confirmed it, but I had a feeling that was, yeah. So I did know.
Yeah.
You guys got the sources. All right. What do you got? Okay. So now what do you got to plug? Wrightway show, TWSN. Where can people hear your voices?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter, obviously, at Wright Report with 2 T's, WRIGHT. REPORTT, because the regular Wright Report is taken for some reason. And you can follow TWS and follow these guys. They do some amazing work. And we have a live show coming out every single day. Got the TWSN live show starting tonight, I want to say in about 20 minutes or so. Super excited for those guys to get the show going. And follow Jake. Jake is a fun follow. Jake blew up on Twitter. Jake blew up on Twitter recently. He's the man now.
Yeah. It's I follow me at Jake Sirkus. I have about 15 days left of 32 teams in 32 days. It's been a grind, but we're getting through it. I've had a chance to talk to some amazing people every single day. I'm doing these interviews, and it's fun seeing, I'm a big draft guy. Seeing some of these guys' perspectives, because I try to get people who are close with the fan base, and seeing some of their perspectives on where their teams want to go. So what I mean by that is, other than Jets and Jaguars, we don't know who these teams are picking. So Jets and Jaguars are like, okay, we kind of know who you're picking at 1 and 2 respectively. And then the next 8 episodes after that, Kyle Pitts, everyone mentioned Kyle Pitts. Now we're at the point where like, okay, everyone's mentioning JC Horn, everyone's mentioning Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker, these guys in the sweet spot. It's crazy to think how many of these teams are high on these prospects. I think this is a very talented class, and especially in the middle of the first round. And that's exactly where I am right now with this series. So it's interesting to see all these different perspectives.
Give that a view. 32 teams in 32 days. Jake and Malik, thank you so much for coming on, talking about your company, guys.
Appreciate you for having us, Harrison. I'm glad we can make this happen.
Huge thank you to Jake and Malik for both coming on, talking about TWSN and the Cincinnati Bengals. Go give them a follow on Twitter for a lot of really great content. Malik at Wright Report, Jake at Jake Sirkus, and at TWSN for all of their information. Coming up next on the Harrison Vapnek podcast, we're going to have on ESPN writer Seth Wickersham to talk about his new book covering Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the Patriots dynasty of the last 20 years. Also talk about some of his reporting with the New England Patriots other than the book, and also talk with some University of Missouri, because Seth is a Mizzou Tiger alum. So stay tuned for that in the upcoming days, and have a great day as usual. And we'll see you next time on the Harrison Vapnek podcast. See ya.